How ballsy are you to claim that you're a woman and then demand heterosexual males date you, and if they don't, then, oh, they're phobics. You know what you are? You're phobic. You're phobic of the truth. You can't handle the truth. You are so delusional that you think, hey, I can be whatever I want to, and you're unhappy with yourself. That's why you want to be something else.
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
In fact, that's probably why these freaks want to push these surgeries onto kids at a younger and younger age.
Are threatening those who stand up for basic facts about biology and the fact that humans are either male or female.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Mr. Walsh.
An adult human female.
Just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman. I listen to that is I mutilated a young child's body.
Not going to respect somebody's make-believe gender.
We're ruining an entire generation of children.
Let a transgender woman be called she.
Because it is a lie. Biological researchers would disagree with you.
Well, then they're full of shit, the ones that would say that.
You know, mutilated a 13.
They could have used women, not have chosen to use a biological man.
I reject the phrase cisgender.
You are not, you're not a woman.
Hallelujah.
To be honest with you,
I'm taking this long.
the woke world is trying to mess this whole thing up.
Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth.
You promised you'd keep the bad guys away, protect her. Now's your chance. Out-of-state special interests that put trans ideology in classrooms and encourage sex changes for kids are hiding behind slick ads. Don't be fooled.
I can't control all things I think. I'm stressed in my breaking point.
Can you clarify what you did as detransitioning?
Oh, totally. So I stopped taking hormones.
Yes.
I stopped using my masculine name, and I started using just like my government name again.
Yeah.
And then I started dressing more femininely, and just kind of like presenting more that way. Like changed my pronouns, so I went from he, they to they, she.
What's your experience, especially because I've noticed, especially with the trans masculine community, there's a thing about like, oh, you're gonna regret it and detransition. What's been your experience with that?
I didn't transition for so long because of that rhetoric. I always saw people be like, oh, well, you're gonna regret it, or it's just a phase.
Do you regret doing hormones?
Oh, absolutely not.
No?
No. I love how deep my voice is. I feel like that's kind of unique to me. I build muscle so fast, which is awesome. Yeah, if I go to the gym, it's instant. And I feel like if I do get in moods where I'm like, you know, I think I'm going to be really masculine today, I can do that, and it feels very effortless, and I feel like I can just be like, I can just exist.
Yeah, I was super scared that I would regret it, But I think that there's this stigma around exploring yourself where even if you end up detransitioning, it's not the end of the world. People change throughout their lifetime. It's not just a stable, you are this, and that's just what you're going to be your entire life. So I think that the stigma, oh, well, I'm going to regret it. So what? I feel like people change and grow, and that's part of being a person.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started taking hormones and stuff, I just was like ecstatic. And I remember like that joy was still some of the most like unbridled joy I've felt in my life. I feel like I felt very similarly when I also started allowing myself to, on the opposite side, play with my femininity and then kind of reintroduce myself to that side of myself.
Right.
Those feelings were very similar. I experienced a lot of self-doubt as well in the beginning. I was like, oh man, what if this is or isn't what I'm supposed to do? And kind of now I think back on it and I just feel like I made the right decisions, even though what was right was very different at like different times.
Yeah.
And I feel very like secure in that.
For things like testosterone, I think that a lot of people don't consider how much consideration it takes to start medically transitioning, because there's a lot of steps. You have to sign so much paperwork. You have to reach out. It's not like they reach out to you and they're like, hey, you want some testosterone?
Yeah.
You have to go through a lot of avenues. You have to figure out insurance. You have to find the right doctor, and it can be really scary. Not everyone medically transitions. I also think that that's a misconception. It's totally valid for someone who's trans to not want to pursue medical avenues. And I think it also is valid to pursue medical avenues, but I think that there's this big scare that the right has where they're just forcing people to do these medical operations, when in reality, it's not like that at all. It's definitely a decision and a personal decision that one takes a long time to make.
It's already so hard. We don't need people making it harder and talking about all these negatives that are gonna, hurt people who are like doing what's right for themselves and like even doing something that could save their life. Because it's, honestly, if I hadn't done that back then, I may not even be here today.
I definitely would not be sitting with you on this couch if I hadn't started hormones. Even though I don't have the full effects that I want, I feel like a completely different person in the best possible way. I came out 2020, and like I said, I started testosterone 6 months ago, so it's been a long time since I decided to start. And I actually had been trying for a year, but I was also scared. I researched a lot. I looked up health effects, and I was scared to start because of all the hate that I'd seen, or the people who had said that it was a bad idea. And they're wrong.
It hurts my feelings that there's people like me who are so hateful. I go through some of my days and I think about that and I'm like, oh man, that's not who I want to be thought of as,
I've imagined you've seen a lot of transitioners that kind of perpetuate that, like, people are going to regret. And, like, how does that make you feel? And, like, do you have anything to say about it?
The way they present it really... Can I swear?
You can swear.
It really pisses me off. Like, it makes me really mad. No, well, it makes me really mad just because it was already like, so hard when I was trying to go on hormones and stuff. And, like, when I was trying to express that part of myself and, like, take that journey, there were already so many obstacles, and I feel like that outlook and that rhetoric is like, it just makes it so much harder for people who are like, that is their path, and like that's what they're gonna be doing like permanently and stuff.
Some people are like, I guess would like kind of use you as an example.
Oh no, you're right though.
Yeah.
I would retaliate with it just being like, I have no regrets. Look how cool I am now. Are you kidding me? I haven't had the misfortune of having to experience anyone using me as a kind of example, but I think if they did, I'd just be like, I have no regrets. I made this informed decision, and then I changed my mind later, and I am happy with how it turned out all in the end.
I think that a lot of people, they don't understand the issue until someone they know is trans. And I think that as more people feel comfortable enough to come out, the more people will be trans because they feel comfortable, not because it's an epidemic or anything, but just because it's now safe. A lot of people don't understand that just simply existing as a trans person and representing yourself in the world, no matter what you're doing, whether it's law, whether it's TV, whether film, I think that just existing, because they don't like that. Because I'm just existing, whether or not they like it, keep fighting. It can be really tough, and some days I get so tired, especially being online, it just gets exhausting. But just to not give up, because I think that to not exist or to not be you is giving in to the rhetoric. So just keep existing.
It started from what might have seemed like a fair idea. The Connecticut Athletic Association decided that males who believe they are girls can compete against girls. But beliefs don't change biology, and the result has been anything but fair.
I really like what you talked about with transitioning, reunited me with sports I love.
Athletics have obviously always been an indispensable aspect of my life. I've always loved swimming. I've always been such a water person. And I was in Southern California, so no better place and time to play water polo.
I started a swim team when I was 12 or 13, around there. And from there, I kept up with that until I was 15 or so.
So once I knew I wanted to play a group sport and get back into that again, I needed a concrete question to confront. And for me, that was, could I play on the women's team? I knew I was trans.
Yeah.
But there was really no one there to show me what could be possible or what could be done.
At the start of my transition, I phased that out. I was in the middle of winter practice. I just stopped going because, okay, I'm here and I'm telling people that hey, I'd prefer to go by a different name. And I didn't really have people that I felt like they would accept me, really. And if I started to talk about that, where would I go from there? Would the people be like, oh, well, you can't really compete in girls, so just keep doing the boys or something? I didn't want to do that.
There was no possibility for me to play sport as a female athlete.
You wear a Speedo and nothing else, and you're swimming, and I don't know, that was very dysphoric, and I had panic attacks every time I was going to practice and stuff, and it would have been a lot better not have a huge crowd all around me watching, and I'm feeling extremely uncomfortable about how I look and what I'm forced to wear. And it's kind of tough to be in front of a crowd and people are cheering for a person who, in your memory at least, is just not who you were.
It's so important for trans youth to have the ability to compete alongside their peers so they can experience the camaraderie of sport and the thrill of competition, from them not to be sidelined while their peers are given these opportunities, because athletics is just such a fundamental aspect of a lot of people's identities.
I can't join college swim team because I don't have the muscle mass that I used to, and I'm not sure how accepting they are of trans people in that space right now, and it's kind of, I don't think I really am able to now, and that didn't pan out.
Is there any part of you that wished you could continue doing that?
Very much, yeah. I've only really reconnected with that a little bit in the past couple weeks, even. I went swimming with friends. It was the first time that I felt kind of comfortable. As soon as I started swimming, I was like, oh, I missed this. This is fun. This is an actual legit passion I had that I had to just quit out of nowhere. I think I kind of blocked out how much that mattered to me and minimized it because I was I'm not able to do this and this makes me sad. So I kind of minimized how important it really was to me.
I couldn't imagine what it would be like to go through that today, even though there is more of a pathway and representation. It's just so much higher profile. My heart really goes out to the trans athletes, the trans youth who are doing it this political climate.
I wish just in another reality I was able just to tell my swim coach, hey, what if I started just coming in a one piece and maybe took a pause from competing for a minute and I was transitioning, and just be honest about it and tell everybody else what's going on, and them just being oh, that's cool, I'm proud to be your friend now that you're being your real self. I think that is a beautiful idea that could be a future for people.
The conversation is just so fundamentally different when you're talking about children or high school students, because it's not all these students are all D1 prospects.
Yeah.
When you're talking about sports at the public school level, the conversation always needs to be centered around expanding access to those opportunities for everyone, because it's just so important for children's development and socialization. And it's even more important to those who make being an athlete such an integral part of their identity.
Yeah.
It's devastating to take away that from someone who's a natural born athlete who is just motivated and who has put in countless, training hours. They have so much passion for their sport. To sideline them while their peers get to participate is unfair.
If you had a fight in this trans movement, what would it be?
I think like one of the most important things that is there is just supporting people who are a bit different and they just want to be a part of something they're passionate about. And it's kind of as simple as that. There's so much pressure that's put on, like, trans people have such an advantage and all this. And I think it's kind of silly because, like, I think we celebrate, like, different people who are stronger than others just because of their genetics. There are men who, like Michael Phelps, has a genetic condition where his body produces less lactic acid, where it, like, that's what makes your muscles, like, tired and painful after using them so much. We celebrate that. We think that's cool that the best swimmer has a genetic advantage.
I obviously have a fight in this movement, specifically as an athlete, since that's been so readily attacked. I've worked in a really complex and disputed area of public advocacy just by being an athlete alone. This is a community where medical needs are neglected. Youth participation in sports has been jeopardized. It's a community that has been ruthlessly attacked, a community facing highly disproportionate amounts of assault and disownment, a community that carries bounds of imposed shame. I think in the face of this recent wave of discrimination, we need healing. We need for our humanity to be recognized. We need political nuance that we're never given. It's a community of such perseverance, self-sufficiency, and such strength. We deserve better.
The definition of a delusion is a fixed false belief. So if I persistently, consistently insist that I am Margaret Thatcher, or persistently, consistently insist that I am a cat, I am delusional. There's no such thing as a civil right to a mental illness. But that is in fact what we are dealing with the transgender rights.
First off, can you go a little in context of what you do as your profession?
Yeah, so I am a physician. I trained in specialties of internal medicine, which is generally care of adults, and then pediatrics, which is care of children. So I'm board certified in internal medicine and pediatrics, and then my kind of specialty and focus is gender affirming care for both adolescents and adults. During my first year out of medical school in residency training, I was pretty burnt out. I was overworked, and I was having kind of a moment where I wasn't finding a lot of satisfaction in medicine. I felt a lot like the things I was doing was not really making an impact in people's lives. I was giving them medicines, trying to fix these chronic problems, but I didn't know if I was making anybody's life any better. And so I had a rotation where there was a lot of gender affirming care there. And it was really that first time where I started seeing those patients and seeing the impact that this care had on patients, that they looked forward to coming to the doctor's office. We didn't have to talk about taking your medications. They always took their medications. And it was really obvious the positive impact that this care was having. And so for me, it really kind of lit a fire in me where I can really make a difference in this field in people's lives, more so than almost any other thing that I had done.
Can you give any examples of like some misconceptions you've heard about gender affirming medicine?
Yeah, pick your attack these days.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And you don't even have to go very far down the internet to find it. And so this messaging, the one I think that is probably the most harmful is this messaging that young children can just walk into clinics and get hormones.
Yeah.
And it just could not be further from the truth. This notion that young patients are being sterilized or having these surgeries or things like that is just complete made up misinformation. I've never seen that. Many providers don't do that kind of care. It takes a specialist who's had training in it in order to do that, and that it's, particularly for minors, a much longer process and more steps that go along with it.
Yeah.
And so this misconception that they're just walking in and getting hormones, that we're doing surgeries on young people, it's just not true. It's a process and it's a big decision. And so making sure we take the time to have all the conversations that we need to have. And some patients know what all entails and some don't. And so really walking them through what the process looks like in terms of, it's not just a, I've thought about this and I think I want to go on hormones and I would like to walk out with my prescription. But really focusing on what are your symptoms? How do we focus on those and make them better? How do we take mental health into it as well? And so when we're caring for any gender diverse patient, we take mental health very seriously and making sure that we feel like things are stable and we know that typically medications and treatment is going to make it better, but it's not an end all be all of like, here's this pill and everything's going to be better. And getting really like realistic expectations of what are these medicines going to do, what are they not going to do, and how long are they going to take to do the things that we talked about. A lot of it is counseling, so there's obviously risks and things that come along with it that patients may not be aware of. And so we talk a lot about what the risks of these medications are, potential complications and things like that. But like anything in medicine, it's just a conversation of balancing the risks and the benefits. And more often than not, the benefits are going to far outweigh what the risks are. But it's having those conversations and empowering the patient to feel like they have all of their information on what their options are so they can make a decision as to what's best for them. I frame it in a way for patients that I say, when you look back in 10 years to this moment, I want you to feel like you had all the information to make the best decision, and you did the best, we made the best decision that we could with the information that we had at the time. But you need to know all the information to know what's best for you. Cisgender people get gender affirming surgery all the time. And I think people are kind of taken aback by that, but I tell them, breast augmentation is absolutely a gender affirming surgery to make someone feel better in their body. Or the crazy surgeries of like becoming taller for cis men, those are all gender affirming surgeries. And so there are a lot of different ways that people go under procedures to feel better in their body. And people just seem to focus on what trans patients are doing. But cis people do it all the time. I don't know what that experience of being transgender is like, but I don't invalidate it, and I don't say that they shouldn't be treated and somehow it's wrong. So just because we don't maybe personally understand what that experience is does not mean it's not real, and it does not mean that it doesn't need care and focus, and respect.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the law and I decide.
Well,
so I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
Actual human lives are being targeted as a way to gain political power and popularity. Right now, today, people who are just being their authentic selves are being made the center of dishonest and unjust attacks. For being themselves. For living their truths, they are being shut down and shamed with untruths. Trans people are being attacked. We are thoroughly berated and teased for our honest self-expression. We are called slurs and not taken seriously. And perhaps even worse, we are accused of having the agenda to groom others. There are those who want us not to exist. They target us with hate and fear that is actively pushing us to fear being ourselves. But we cannot be hated and feared out of existence. This current dialogue is being dictated by a small faction of individuals who are exploiting fears and anxieties around area that many people just don't really know about. So people hearing these leaders, mind you again, of a small faction, create expressions like transgenderism must be eradicated, or the never-ending question in the vocabulary politics of what is a woman. What this leads to is an othering that makes it seem that transgender folks, like myself and others, are fundamentally different from any one of us. And with this othering comes a breakdown of care and empathy. After all, it's easier to hate or fear someone that you've been taught is nothing like you. The result is that people are unable not to care. Empathy for these others is lost, replaced with hate, fear, and hurt. When in reality, we are neighbors, we are siblings, we are coworkers. We are far more alike than we are different. Trans people are humans just like anyone else. And it's sad to know that this rhetoric powers legislation. Power for 21 states in all.
Kentucky,
medical care for minors.
Florida,
Governor Ron DeSantis signed 4 bills that took aim at the transgender community.
Alabama,
Became the 3rd state in the nation to pass a measure restricting gender-affirming care for transgender and non-binary youth, but it's the 1st state to actually impose criminal penalties.
Arkansas,
The bill will allow people who receive treatment.
Iowa,
bans discussions of gender identity in schools.
Georgia,
House File 290.
Idaho,
Transgender treatments like puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender
Kansas, Missouri,
transgender athletes and
Mississippi, Indiana,
A bill Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb elected to sign less than 24 hours after he called it clear as mud and not part of his agenda.
Montana, North and South Dakota,
would prohibit gender-affirming procedures for transgender people.
Nebraska, Oklahoma,
Representative Jim Olson filed the bill Thursday. It keeps healthcare professionals from
Utah,
gender transition services
Texas,
under 21.
Tennessee,
Gender-affirming care for people.
Wyoming, West Virginia.
Birth certificate changes until age 18, and one on how schools can handle notifying parents about a child's pronouns and any name changes.
Hello, my name is Erin Reed. I am a transgender journalist, activist, and content creator, and I've been covering LGBTQ issues for around 5 years now. My coverage reaches hundreds of thousands of people on TikTok and Twitter. My newsletter is one of the top newsletters on transgender activism and rights, as well as news that affects the trans and queer community. I cover these laws so often because nobody else is doing so. Just last year, we had 530 anti-trans laws that moved their way through state houses across the United States. And so often, with the dearth of local journalism in these places where laws are made, people weren't covering them. And even if there was somebody in that room who was a reporter covering it, very rarely were they LGBTQ. The internet has become filled with outrage bait and social media algorithms that are designed to amplify hate. And we have accounts now that their whole shtick is making sure that they spread hate about queer people and misinformation about queer people. And we know that these accounts, people like Libs of TikTok, Matt Walsh, they call targets, and immediately afterwards, people get bomb threats, people get harassment, people get threatening phone calls. And also, we know that these same people are cited in the courtrooms, they're cited in the legislative chambers. Matt Walsh was actually there for the drafting of the very first anti-trans law of 2023. He released it in October of 2022. The rise in online hate is directly connected to laws that target the trans community, but they're also directly connected to real-world violence. There's difficulty in being a trans person reporting on these issues. There's difficulty in being a trans person. But I think that the reason why we transition, the reason why this is all worth it for us, is because I will take the difficulty and my ability to handle that, being fully present and whole in who I am, over hiding myself and squashing myself down but living an easy life. Because there's nothing easy about that. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be trans. Trans people are beautiful. Trans people are wonderful. And I will always believe that.
Sometimes we need to ditch the sledgehammer, address our humanity, and support one another. Say I love you to your close trans siblings, partners, children. We need to write and call out to local legislators who continue to press on with transphobic legislation and rhetoric. What we really need to do is to be active in our fight against transphobia and actively trans positive. But who am I to say? I'm just a punk who needs to drop the sledgehammer.